All right, guys, today we're going to talk about legal issues and terminology as it relates to sports medicine. So, we do have to go over legal issues in healthcare because we live in a very litigious society. Okay, there are different types of sports, and so I'm just going to have you look at these pictures here on the screen. Here's hockey, here's rugby, here's football, and you can see that there's certain levels of violence in these sports. So a collision sport is going to be probably the most violent type of sport, the most risk for injury and these types of things. So you can see the definition of a collision sport here is where athletes use their body to deter or punish opponents. So you can probably imagine that things like the number of concussions, the number of I don't know, basically injury is concussion is going to be the big thing, to be honest, for these ones. We'll watch a documentary on it, but this has a high risk of injury because they're constantly colliding. So collision sports first. Second type of sports, here are a bunch of examples of them. I don't know if you've ever seen that's not to say that these sports are not intense. I just remember there was a kid on a lacrosse team one year when I taught at Bountiful that really took issue with the fact that I had lacrosse as a contact and not a collision sport. It's not my classifying it. I don't know who classifies it. I just tell you what it is. But these are contact sports. So there is contact which occurs in basketball. You can kind of think of as they're going to the hoop, they're kind of bumping each other the whole time. But it's not the intent of the sport, and it's discouraged by the rules. And we got some flopping happening in the NBA and stupid calls sometimes. But contact sports, you are going to get overuse injuries. If you think of basketball, a lot of ankles. You do have knees. Ankles, knees are going to be the biggest ones for basketball. My nephew played water polo, and that is insanely intense. And he told me that sometimes they grow out their toenails just to scratch at each other and stuff like that. So, not to say that it's not a violent sport, it's just not as violent as what we would classify as collision sports. And then we have non-contact sports. So, they're basically on the opposite side of the net from each other. So, maybe tennis or volleyball, or you could be someone that has a steady hand and is good at archery, rowing, gymnastics. So again, not to say that they're not intense, but it's to say what kind of a risk of injury are we looking at here? So without a violation, if you think of volleyball, if a person goes up to block and then they inadvertently, as they jump, if they come down, land on the opposite team's foot, that has happened a lot in volleyball. It is a violation for that foot to have come under the net. So that would be the fault of the person, whoever was under the net. Maybe if they both were, I don't know where the infraction would go. Probably wherever the ref saw it, I guess. Okay, so non-contact. So we've got collision, contact, non-contact. And here's a list of non-contact. Okay, I have some clips here that I will include after the video, but basically we're going to be looking at, there's a sports science show that is absolutely amazing that talks about different types of turf and kind of what the risks are. So especially as it relates to your ACL, so that's your anterior cruciate ligament in your knee. It kind of shows the risk for ACL, especially in soccer, what turf does as opposed to natural grass. And then the most amazing TED Talk I've ever seen is one on whether athletes in today's world are getting better and stronger and faster, because that's kind of an argument that's made a lot, is to say this athlete is really, really good. These newer athletes are better than the old athletes. But this talk actually goes into the science behind how people are getting better, and it has to do with body type, and it has to do with surfaces, it has to do with even the suits that they wear. They're just making them more efficient. So science has improved. It doesn't necessarily point to athletes getting better, but that body types are actually getting put into the proper sports more readily, if that makes sense. So when you see that one, you'll see what I'm talking about. We have a number of terms that we're going to go over in this class, and we'll go over these in the next PowerPoint because I want to give you time to see those 2 videos, and we'll have an assignment that's based on this first section of notes and those videos, and we'll come back here the next time online. So we'll start from there. Thanks, guys.